Throwdown Nation, good evening. We are live yet again. It is a Sunday night, and I am happy to have with me my guest tonight, Mr. Marvelous James Runyan, straight out of Toronto, Canada. And how are you tonight, sir?
I'm doing marvelous. How are you?
If I were much better, there'd probably be 5 or 6 of me.
You love those cliches in the South, eh?
Yeah. I noticed the A.
Yeah, exactly. I'm authentic.
Yep, that you are. So anyway, I guess we'll just go ahead and get into the topics at hand. And the first and most obvious question for you is going to be, how long have you been wrestling?
So I started around 2016. In Canada, we had COVID, but we had like severe lockdowns. Everything was shut down, so we weren't even really wrestling. So I don't count those years that we had COVID. But I guess so 2016 and probably like 6-7 years on the whole, but not counting COVID because we weren't wrestling then. But yeah, I started off at Lance Storms. I broke in there and never looked back.
Nice. I bet training with Lance Storm was quite beneficial.
Yeah, definitely. It seemed like an obvious choice from the beginning because like he's got countless numbers of endorsements from famous wrestlers to go and train with him. And like when I got into wrestling, like I had just gotten off playing college football and I didn't really know anything about independent wrestling or how it works or anything like that. So like I didn't really know where else to go. And I just saw all these other famous wrestlers telling you to go train with Lance. And the nice thing with that was that it was also still in Canada. It's far from me, but like it's still in Canada. So it seemed like an obvious choice, but I was absolutely blown away with the amount of knowledge he has. Like I call him a genius because he is in every way in terms of wrestling and understanding how it works, how to build business, how to build matches. He's just he's a wealth of knowledge, and he would lecture us daily for hours, just stuff like this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do, look at this, and it's even to this day, like if I'm talking to wrestlers that have less experience, I still quote him. Like, and I remember being in his dojo and him saying this, and I take the quote out and I give it to other people because the information he gives is so succinct that it's perfect. So definitely, I love Lance. He's a great guy.
Got you. So this is going to be the first of the speed round.
Great.
Sabu.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I met him a couple times. He is Sabu. If you're wondering, he is Sabu, and he's crazy. And I liked him though. He was great.
So he's definitely Sabu 24/7.
He's Sabu, yeah. So like, if you ever thought you want to meet Sabu, you did if you were at a live show.
Yeah. Yeah. So at what point in your life did you know that you wanted to try to make a go of this? Have you been a fan all your life, or how did that go exactly?
So this is actually interesting because I don't remember discovering wrestling. I kind of always just watched it. I watched it when I was a kid. I'd go to my grandmother's on Saturdays and watch WWF Superstars.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a big Bret Hart fan. He was Canadian. I don't know.
Yep.
I was connected to him, but I don't remember actually discovering wrestling. And then like, I don't know, you grow up and it seems like something that you'd like to do, but you don't know. And I got really into sports. So I was playing football a lot, and I played a bunch of other things. And I tried to make professional football, but I kind of also wanted to do wrestling, but doing both at the same time didn't seem to work. But it was like I have like the window to succeed in wrestling is small, but the window to succeed in pro sports is even smaller. So it was like, let's pursue football and see how far it goes. And then when that kind of ends, I'll go into wrestling. And that's what I did. So when I graduated from university, I signed up for Lance Storms and went up to Calgary.
Gotcha. What out of curiosity, what position did you play in football?
Was a linebacker.
Okay. Offensive or defensive, or both?
Well, defensive linebacker, and then in high school I played offensive line.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So speed round. Kevin Nash.
Kevin, I haven't met Kevin Nash. He's legitimately as big as he comes off on television, from what I know. He kind of has he strikes that chord with me because, like I said, like when I grew up as a kid watching wrestling, he was I think he was champion around that time. So like as Diesel. So I got fond memories. He was like in my childhood. It was Bret Hart, Diesel, Undertaker, Shawn Michaels. Like those were like the guys that I watched on television that I liked.
Got you. So away from wrestling, what are some of your other hobbies and interests?
Lots of things. I'm all over the place. I'm like a renaissance man. So we talked about COVID earlier. What happened during COVID was everything was shut down, and I have some friends that do stunt acting. So what I kind of figured out is that there's a lot of parallels between professional wrestling and stunt acting because it's all just simulated combat, right? So our gyms were shut down, but the movie productions were still in business. I mean, go figure, right? So, but the actors were like, we're athletes. We need to train. So what happened was they were training at my friend's gym. I won't say who because it's illegal, but they needed to train. So they were operating to kind of get their stuff in and to be fit so they could work. And I got invited because they were like, like you do a lot of the same stuff we do. So why don't you just come along and whatever? So I started like hanging out with them and training with them. And then I started getting cast in movies. So I did a commercial recently. You would probably know this because I'm Canadian. I don't know what this is, but it was a health insurance company that the name escapes me right now, but I'll send it to you later maybe. But
okay.
It was a health insurance company, which in Canada we don't have health insurance, so that's why it's kind of funny. But yeah, and like I did a movie recently. It's going to be on Netflix, which I also don't know the name of, but it was a horror movie. I don't think it's up yet, but and then I did another one. It was History's Greatest Warriors, and I was a Viking. We had to fight each other with swords and stuff. And that one you wouldn't recognize me because I got this big beard on. Like you wouldn't, but like it was cool, and it's something definitely that I would pursue long term because the one difference between professional wrestling and the movies is that the movies is like 1000% safe. Like they rig everything so that there's absolutely no possible chance of injury. There's crash pads. There's you put pads on your body, all those kinds of things, and then they just shoot it in a way that it looks believable on the camera. So like I can do that probably until the day I die.
Yeah.
there's no issue. Right. So, but yeah, no, that's been something really unexpected and really interesting.
That's cool. So is wrestling a full-time thing for you, or do you have an air quotes day job?
So yeah, like I always say like I'm an entrepreneur, and I think realistically, if you are legitimately in the wrestling business, you should be an entrepreneur because at the end of the day, we're all independent contractors, right?
Right.
But what that means is that each of us individually should have our product that we're selling, which is ourself. And you're trying to monetize that product. So being in that subcategory, being an independent contractor, that means that you do anything. So even like, I kind of just do lots of things. Like I do the wrestling and I try to make money off that. I do the movies. I do even like we're doing some gender reveals, which is like kind of wrestling, kind of, you know, a little bit different subgenre. But and even we're doing we got a promotion that I work with, primarily Classic Championship Wrestling. We go out to all these different fairs, and they're really successful going out to these, you know, kind of like these middle of nowhere kind of towns that run these big community fairs. And that's a big thing for us. We've been really successful with that. So I'm all over the place.
Got you. So is Toronto your actual hometown, or are you from somewhere else in Canada?
No, I was going to correct you. I might have told you I'm from Toronto, because usually when I talk to Americans, I just say Toronto because they don't know anything about Canada. So I just say Toronto. But I'm actually from Niagara Falls, and I grew up in Niagara Falls, and I live in St. Catharines now, but it's still Niagara Falls.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
So what would you say is your favorite thing about Niagara Falls?
What I like about Niagara Falls is it has kind of a big city feel, because like the falls itself is like a huge tourist attraction, and we get
Right.
you know, millions of people coming through every year. So we get that bit of like a big city kind of feel because we have that big tourist destination, but it's still kind of a small town vibe, because like we don't have really deal with like hordes of traffic all the time like we would in actual Toronto.
Right.
So I kind of like it because you can get a taste of like that kind of big festival, you know, city kind of thing if you just go down the falls, which is just 10 minutes away from my house. But if you don't want to, there's lots of like different parks, and go down by the lake and get some peace and quiet too. So it's a nice blend.
Got you. So speed round.
All right.
Jimmy Jacobs.
Jimmy's very, very creative, and I really like his promos. His promos are very, very good. He's very, very skilled on the mic.
Let's see, where are we?
I like these speed rounds. You got some good names coming up.
Well, thank you. I try to change the list for each one of these that I do, and sometimes it gets hard to not duplicate. But anyway, so tell me about in-ring Mr. Marvelous, and compare and contrast him with everyday James Runyan.
You know, it's in terms of me as a person, like I'm super competitive. I love competing. I've competed my whole life in athletics. So like whenever I get into a wrestling match, I'm always going in there for blood and wanting to win and all that stuff. And then of course, professional wrestling, the finish is worked. So like,
Right.
you know, sometimes it's not. But
Right.
Yeah,
it is until it isn't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is until it isn't. And you know, I'm usually the guy that when it isn't, I show up, and so that's just where I've kind of fallen into this business. That's fine. But like the truth is, like the most successful characters, if you really break them down, they usually resonate with the actual person in some way. And
yeah.
A good example of this was actually one of my trainers, Anthony Corelli, Santino Morella, which Santino Morella, the character, he's very kind of goofy and, you know, silly and things like that. But Anthony Corelli, the guy, is actually a really serious judo champion, hard guy.
Right.
And it's a big contrast, but there's a little shred of Santino in there. If you get to know him, it's there.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to get to know him to find it. So whenever he's performing, he just pulls that out, and he's
Right.
But yeah, like I said, the best characters are always something that resonates with the person. So in terms of comparing Mr. Marvelous with James Runyan, like they are very similar. They're wanting to compete. They're wanting to display themselves, marvelously, and they, I obviously I do a lot of training with jiu-jitsu and all that, because like I take it serious and I'm a professional, and they're all one and the same.
Gotcha. Yeah. Asking that question to other folks, I've mentioned actually, and I had neglected to mention it with you, that I've always heard that the best wrestling personas are yourself turned up to 11. And
everything in wrestling is almost like turning the volume up to 11. And
right.
Even like the way we do things in the ring, we do them in a way that they make them bigger,
Right.
So it only makes sense that if you're going to take a personality and present it as a product, like it has to be kind of larger than life, right?
Right. Well, something I'm going to do real quick, and this is actually kind of a perfect segue to this, is I actually found a short clip of you that I was going to actually share my screen and play, just for people that are really not familiar. And it sort of, to some extent, kind of shows the comedic side of you. So
okay,
I'm going to share the screen here, and
oh
yeah.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mr. Marvelous James Runyan, coming to you live from judo practice, where I'm preparing to enter the Battle Arts Rising Stars Battle Rumble. Furthermore, I will be the last man standing. I'm going to take every other competitor. I'm going to take every other competitor, throw them over the top rope so both hit the ground. Is there anything else that needs to be said?
We kind of just turned the camera on there, and that's what happened.
Yeah. I enjoyed that because it definitely showed that you do have some some serious training, but you also got to show a little bit of the comedic side of things as well. I just thought that was a lot of fun.
Well, these guys just kept getting involved with the camera. They're camera horny, I guess. So I had to get them out of there.
So I'm guessing I probably know the answer to this based on the Mr. Marvelous persona, but do you have a preference yourself between working heel or babyface?
I work to win the match. So it's when we get in the ring, we're telling a story, and there's all that kind of stuff that goes into it. But as a wrestler and a competitor, it's all about winning the match. So it's you can like me, you can not like me. I don't really care. I'm playing to win the match.
Got you. So speed round.
All right.
Finn Balor.
Finn's really talented, and I saw him a couple weeks ago when I was at SmackDown. I was an extra. And
nice.
I didn't get a chance to talk to him, but I know he's from Ireland, right?
Yes.
A lot of good wrestlers that come out of Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
And and I'm not surprised to see all the success he's having because he's really, really talented.
So tell us, if you can remember back this far, tell us about your very first match. What was it like? How did it go? Tell me about it.
Yeah, so my first match, it was a couple months after I finished at Lance's, and like I said earlier, when I started, I didn't really know anything about independent wrestling. So my thinking was that, like, I mean, Lance was just like, just go out and get experience now. That's how he kind of left it with us, and then we left. So it was like, okay, so I just started, going to shows that were local to me, and I got a shot at a show that was pretty local to me. It was in Niagara Falls, and I wrestled. It was for this promotion, Busted Knuckle Pro Wrestling, and I wrestled Jim Nye, the Science Guy, and I lost. And it was nice that because it was so local that I actually had a couple of my friends come. So it's like, yeah, I went and trained and I learned how to do this. Now here it is, right? So that was cool. And in terms of the mat, I don't remember too much, but it was fun. I remember that.
So let's see here. Speed round.
All right.
Zack Sabre Jr.
Zach is very technical, and I love watching him because I'm a technician. So I like seeing his stuff, and I'd like to see him get more involved with the American promotions. But I know he's doing really well in Japan, and all power to him.
Absolutely. So we've heard about your first match. Now tell us about your favorite match that you have been a part of.
Ooh.
If there is one favorite.
You know what? I think like the more and more that I kind of go along in wrestling, it's like you don't necessarily remember specific matches or have favorite matches. You remember moments.
Gotcha.
But there was, I think one that comes to mind was we did a show at Battle Arts, and it, Anthony Crowley is really good friends with Damian Sandow, Aaron Stevens.
Mm-hmm.
And he just happened to be in town for the weekend that we were doing the show. I don't know, maybe he was acting or something. And so we didn't advertise he was going to be there. So it was kind of cool. We had like a pretty decent name, and he was going to do something on the show and like surprise people. So like it was kind of cool that we had that surprise coming. So like I remember we ended up main eventing with some kind of 6-man tag, and we had like all these kind of like built-in stories and feuds culminating in this main event, which was cool. But we did like an opening promo segment to kind of hype the main event. And Damian Sandow came out, and Aaron Stevens. And I remember like the pop that we got when his music hit and he came out. It was I just remember like what stands out when you ask that question, the hair in the back of my neck stood up because that pop.
Mm-hmm.
That was really cool. And then he came out and he was cutting promos on us, and he's really good on the mic. That was cool. And then of course the actual 6-man tag, which had a lot of heat and pops on it because like we just had like all these, we had like all like kind of like the main players in the promotion in this one match, and then plus Aaron Stevens was there. That was a really fun one.
So what have been some of the most interesting or unusual experiences that you've had in the wrestling business? I'm sure there's a ton.
Are you familiar with the wrestling business?
Yes, I am.
Like it's every day is an experience. The people you meet and the characters and the incidents and where you end up, and oh man. But I think what comes to mind, there was a show a year ago. I think it was a year ago. Bobby Fulton.
Yeah.
So I wrestle for Bobby Fulton here and there, and we did a show in Ohio. It was one of those like fair shows, but see, the thing is, I don't know what it's like in Georgia, but I know in the South they get a lot of heavy rain.
Mm-hmm.
So Ohio also gets heavy rain. So we set up the ring for the show, and we're getting ready for the show. The show is supposed to start at 6:30, and at 6:15 it starts pouring rain.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, well, what are we gonna do? Like, we can't wrestle in that. And like, so, oh no, sorry. The first match went out and it started pouring during the match. I was like,
oh no,
I was like fourth in the show. So the show started and it started pouring rain. The guys come back, they're soaked. We decide to put an intermission, see if the rain will stop. So the intermission, 15 minutes goes by, the rain didn't stop. And Bobby Fulton comes in and he's like, boys, it's raining out there, but now we're going to find out who can actually work. All you got to do is just grab a wrist and work a hole. Don't take any stupid bumps. Don't do anything stupid. Just go out there and wrestle, and we're going to find out who can work tonight, and we're going to get our money. And everyone in the room was just like, okay. So then like we go like the next match goes out, the intermission ends, the next match goes out. And like I said, I'm like fourth or fifth on the show, and we're just like, oh my God. So we were seeing it through the window. It's pouring rain. And like guys are coming back and like they're just soaked. And then we had these other two guys in the show, and they were like big 6'5", 300-pound guys. They go out. And I remember they went out, they came back in. I remember they were walking through the dressing room and their boots were filled with water. So like he's stepping and like the water's like overflowing from his boots from being out there. And I'm just like, holy crap, what the hell is going to happen? So then we go out there and like, finally we go out there and like, this is the only match I didn't wear one of my robes because I was like, I'm not getting this soaking wet. This is stupid. So, but we go out there and like, I remember I was doing a tag match, and so I tag in and I try to actually wrestle, but the ring's soaked. And I tried to like work a wrist lock, and I remember I got the guy to push me down, and like I just kind of like slipped and flopped, and I was like, holy crap, okay, so we're basically on an ice rink here. Like, but I think Shark Boy was in the match too, if I remember. Yeah, because I remember he was pretty funny in the ring because he's a little bit older now, so he can't really move that much. But this place is on an ice rink, so yeah, like I just remember like wrestling in that downpour. It was just like that's something I'll never forget.
No doubt. So again, this is a perfect segue to the next speed round.
All right.
Cheeseburger.
Oh, cheeseburger. I love cheeseburger. I haven't wrestled him, but I've been around him here and there. He's super nice.
Seems like a good dude.
Last year, I went down to the Philly area and I did some training, and I actually stayed at his house, and he was very gracious to help me out there and appreciative. And yeah, he's a definite asset to the business.
No doubt. So, what has been your strangest encounter with a fan?
Are you familiar with the wrestling business?
Yes.
Oh man, there's some weird people that like wrestling. Like,
no doubt.
And you know, God bless them. We appreciate you, but you're weird, man. Like, I think what comes to mind is definitely being hit up for like, you know, OnlyFans pornographic stuff. That's happened. I've been solicited. We'll just leave it at that. Yeah, and it's like no.
Yeah.
and it's by males, not females.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. Like, not there's anything wrong with it.
Right.
Just I don't want to participate. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So as far as your in-ring work and your promos go, who or what would you say are some of your influences?
I think the best way to put it, and this is what I think anyone should do, is you should take an amalgamation of people and kind of make it your own. So I can go through a list of people that, you know, I liked growing up or I still like now. But I think at the end of it, like I'm me. Like there's
Right.
no other product that really compares to me. If you want Mr. Marvelous, you're not going to really book anyone else. You're going to book me, right? But like I said, when I grew up, I loved Bret Hart growing up. I liked Mr. Perfect. He was really, really good. And even like, it's funny because like I liked those guys when I was growing up, but then like I obviously got involved with the wrestling business and kind of learned to understand kind of what I'm watching and understand kind of what to look for. And when I look back at their matches, like I'm just blown away at how good they are. Like they're on point, their fundamentals and everything. Kurt Angle is really good. I love Kurt Angle matches. Yeah, Danielson's really good too. I can go on, but I think influences. I usually get a lot of people think of William Regal when they see me, so that's a pretty good one.
Well, you know, that's actually high praise. I mean,
oh, I know, yeah, for sure. I don't take that lightly.
You know, I was actually going to say, from what I've seen of your persona and such, I do see some William Regal. I also see some Triple H when he was the Hunter Hearst Helmsley aristocrat character.
Yeah.
I see a little touch of that as well. So,
well, that kind of 80s blue blood heel, like Paul Orndorff, you know, it's kind of what I fell into because I was like, that's stereotypical wrestling and it's not really present today. Like there's not a lot of people doing that, you know? So
right.
That's kind of what I went with. And that's what I've been having success with.
Got you. So speed round.
All right.
Randy Orton.
Oh, Orton's phenomenal. Like,
yeah,
he's just phenomenal. He's kind of the same thing. Like I watched his matches before I got into wrestling, and like obviously I thought he was really good, but when I watch his matches now, like he's really good. He's just like a lot of people should study his work.
Yeah.
Especially him as a heel.
Oh yeah,
I love his heel work.
Yeah. You know, I had heard somebody say not too long ago that if you were going to build a professional wrestler, it would basically be Randy Orton.
I can see that for sure. Like it's his work. Like he hasn't had too many injuries, Like he's been able to keep himself healthy relatively, and he doesn't waste anything, which is like maybe the fan might have trouble seeing that, but me as a worker, I can see like he doesn't take anything for granted. He takes his time. And you know, obviously it helps that he's like 6'5". He's a legacy, right? His dad and his granddad were in wrestling. I'd concur that for sure. If you were making a wrestler, it would be Randy. Yeah.
Yep. So, do you have an all-time favorite match as a fan? Like a match that you can go back to and watch and rewatch, and it really never gets old, and there's always something new to draw from it.
Lots.
Anything spring to mind?
Oh yeah, no, I'm just trying to pick in my head right now which one. I think one for sure would be Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker at WrestleMania 25, but like I feel like everybody says that match, but after that, like I'd probably be just listing off a bunch of Bret Hart matches, because the thing with Bret is that like he had so many classic matches, and I think that's kind of part of his legacy. Like he's got classic matches with a multitude of people, you know. But I think the one match that comes to mind is WrestleMania 13 with Steve Austin, because like the story in that match is like, yeah, that's how you tell a story, you know. You had a good guy coming in, and he gets, you know, frustrated, and he compromises his morals, and he turns into a bad guy, you know. And then you have the other guy, starts off as a bad guy, and you put sympathy on him, and you get the crowd behind him. And it's just like, that's how you work, you know.
Something that I have mentioned to some other guests while doing these is I love the moments where a wrestler can seamlessly turn from babyface to heel and or backwards and really not change anything major about their character, just subtle little things to basically get the crowd to either love them or hate them. And I mean, to me, that's magic. You know, if you can really not change the character, but suddenly make this transition, it's just, I just love those moments.
And like that's storytelling, and it's really signs of who the best workers are, right? Your character should have enough depth to it that you can make those subtle changes, and the audience doesn't get withdrawn from the story. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
absolutely.
And like it's way easier said than done, because I feel like sometimes some characters kind of get typecasted as either a babyface or a heel. You know what I mean? And it's hard. It's hard to make that jump over. But definitely, like it all comes down to emotions and stories, and those moments where you can really dive deep into a character to where, you know, sometimes we like him, and sometimes we dislike him, and sometimes there's just debate over what the character's motives and his how agreeable we are with him. That's what makes interesting stories.
Completely agree. So what would be your favorite faction of all time?
I'd say Evolution.
Mm-hmm.
Evolution. I think it was a good mix. Like you had like the legend, you had the current champion, and then you had two guys that were coming up.
Yeah.
And it I think a big reason why it worked is because it was the right guys, which they didn't know this before they did it, but they caught fire. They caught lightning in a bottle. You know, because Orton and Batista, like they didn't know at the time they were going to be big stars, but they were, right? So you look back on it, obviously it totally makes sense. But I think the biggest thing that I liked about it is that they made new people, you know? And I think those are those are really the most successful things, when you have a wrestler that can make new wrestlers, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I really feel like, you know, Orton more than Batista, because, you know, Orton is still actively wrestling, but I do feel like Orton would have done well without Evolution, but I feel like he owes Evolution to, you know, at least to some extent, for being where he's at now. I feel like Evolution really propelled him.
Yeah, definitely. But you know what? A lot of the wrestling business is timing too, and it's getting that timing correct is really the make or break, right? And like obviously Orton was really, really talented, and he had the legacy behind him that he was an Orton. And you know, it's I mean, who knows what would have happened if he didn't do Evolution, but it's there was no denying Orton.
No.
But getting him into that position definitely made him.
Absolutely. Speed round.
All right.
Terry Funk.
Oh, Terry Funk. He's great. I think like more of the newer generation should watch Terry Funk, like in terms of just intensity and like just like energy, you know, and even like versatility too. Like we talked about, you know, workers and, you know, being able to work heel and babyface. That was Terry Funk. Like he could make the crowd do whatever he wanted, you know.
Absolutely.
He's one of the best ever, honestly.
No doubt, no doubt. You know, one of my probably 3 favorite matches of all time is back in 1989, his I Quit match with Ric Flair. That is an amazing match in terms of in-ring, but the storytelling behind it as well just is it was just phenomenal. I mean, really great match.
Two talented workers at the top of their game.
Yep. No doubt. No doubt. So have you had a chance, it sounds like you have, but have you had a chance over your career to meet any of your heroes?
Yeah, I've met a bunch of them actually. I've met Bret Hart a couple times. Haven't really hung out with him, but I've met him and he was really, really cool. In terms of like, I've met Kurt Angle. I've met Kurt Angle a couple times. He was really, really cool. I don't really have any negative experiences. They say don't meet your heroes, but
right.
I met mine and they were cool with me. I don't know. We have Jimmy Hart coming in this week, which like he wasn't like one of my heroes growing up, but like in terms of like a legend in the business.
Oh my
like,
gosh.
I have so much respect and admiration for him. So like, and I've been around him quite a bit, and like honestly, you could not meet a nicer guy than Jimmy Hart.
Right. And you know, the musical talent side of him is interesting as well, you know.
Well, yeah, and it's one of those things like wrestling is entertainment basically, and it's storytelling, and in a lot of ways it like I do the stunt movies acting, music's the same thing, right? And you like you have a medium and you're trying to invoke emotions out of people, right? And then say you do a live event like a concert, you're working the crowd to get certain reactions, right? And the best concerts are ones that people can get in front of the crowd and get them to feel things, you know, like one of the best live events is Kiss, Gene Simmons, right? Like but like in terms of their musical talent, they're not the best, but in front of a crowd, oof, like they know how to make you feel.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So yeah, Jimmy gets working, we could say.
Yep. So you've been doing this long enough that this probably applies. What hurts right now?
You know what? I count my blessings. I feel great.
Awesome.
Next question. No. I played football growing up for 12 years, 14 years, I don't know. Collegiate, all that. I didn't really have anything major, like I didn't blow up my knees or my shoulders or anything. I do yoga and I stretch a lot, and I think that helps. And I kind of recommend that to people. Like if you're a professional athlete, you have to condition your body for the things that you do. And I feel like I do that. Like I'm really flexible. I train hard. I learn the craft and, protect your joints, so you don't have those major injuries, but honestly, I really don't have much to complain about at this point. And I'm hoping I'm going to keep that going as long as possible.
Yes.
It's funny though, because I can compare it to like some of my friends that like I went to high school with who weren't athletes, and they're like they complain about things, but it's like you just need to. I think you just need to like condition your body to function, and that's what I do because I need to, right?
Right. Absolutely. So, what are your thoughts in general on the current state of the industry?
I think the industry is pretty hot. Like I don't see how anyone can complain about what's going on right now. You got multiple different there's so much content out there to consume. And it's like even like WWE's they're setting records every pay-per-view. I still call them pay-per-views. Every premium live event.
Yeah.
So like and when the business is making money, you can't say that the business is anything but successful, right?
Exactly.
You know, you've got AEW's got its thing going on. Like they're doing cool things. They got Wembley in a couple weeks. That's amazing. Like I think 10 years ago, if you had said there's going to be another Fed come up that's going to sell out Wembley twice, I don't think anyone would believe you, but it's happened. And even like you got NWA and TNA, and it's the business. I think the biggest thing, because like if you've studied the industry and you relate back to like when wrestling was probably the last boom was like late 90s, but then like before that was the 80s. I think the difference is that there's a lot more options out there than there was back then. Right. All these streaming platforms and all Netflix is pumping out things constantly. There's all these different genres vying for eyeballs, you know? So I think it's a lot more competitive, but there's a lot more options out there. And I think it's a really cool time to be in the wrestling business.
Absolutely. You know, I've talked to some other guests that I've had. It is also a cool time to be a fan because, you know, for the first time in a long time, you really have a sense that just about anything is possible. You know, and I give a lot of credit to that, I guess, to the current regime within WWE. They seem to be willing to collaborate with other companies, and you know the whole crossover they've got going with TNA right now. You know, all of this type of thing, you know, would not have been possible under Vince. I mean,
you know what, and you know what, that's really an exciting thing too, is that like you know, God bless Vince and all the contributions.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
But like, you know what? Like it's hard to be the guy making the decisions for a very long time.
Right.
And at some point you're going to be looking at something and you're going to get stale and you're going to miss things. And I think bringing in a fresh set of eyes, specifically this Endeavor company, I think if you think about where we are now to where, like, you know, 15 years ago, it's really the possibilities that can come up now is amazing to think about.
Absolutely. You know, and something else I've mentioned this to some other guests, the irony is not lost on me that that you've basically got the two primary figures from D-Generation X running WWE now. You know, Hunter and Sean. I mean, it's
yeah. they had an objective, and they weren't going to stop until they were running the company.
Yeah.
or specifically took out the evil boss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So do you enjoy tag team wrestling, or are you mostly a singles focused guy? And, you know, and as far as tagging goes, do you have a typical partner that you like to tag with when you tag?
I like wrestling. So singles, tag team, I don't have a preference. I think watching like 80s tag team wrestling is incredible. The stuff that they were doing and the houses they were drawing and things like that. It's I think in a lot of ways it's a lost art that like there's really not, especially on the indies, there's not like prominent tag teams, and there's no one there, or there's not enough people at least that are pushing themselves as tag teams and trying to sell themselves as tag teams. And like I get it in some ways, because when you're an independent promotion and you're on a budget, it's hard to, because basically you take a match and you're gonna have to double the cost of the match because you got to pay 2 extra people, right?
Right.
So like it kind of makes sense that we've got to this point, but at the same time, it's a shame because there's a lot of things in tag team wrestling that you can do that you just can't do in singles wrestling, you know?
Right.
And like anyone that doesn't know what I'm talking about, like watch Rock and Roll, watch Midnight Express, you know, watch Heart Foundation, like watch those guys and see the just cool matches that they had. But yeah, I to answer your question, I like both.
Got you. Well, do you have somebody that you enjoy tagging with?
I think I've never really pushed myself as a tag team wrestler. However, there was one guy, a local guy in Ontario. His name's Pretty Ricky, and we tagged for a little bit. We did some shots together and we did some programs, and it was a fun thing that I had to go with him. I'm still close with him to this day. But I think what was interesting about it is that like me, I'm like, you know, very like hard hitting, serious kind of that kind of thing. And then he's very kind of wacky. So, and like we had that kind of contrast, which kind of made things fun to play with. And I think when I think back of like successful tag teams, those are kind of the ones that are, like stand out as being really interesting, where it was like you had one guy that was this and then this guy that was just different, like, you know, like maybe like an X-Pac and Kane, or
Gotcha,
or like a Yokozuna and Owen Hart.
Yeah.
Like that kind of difference. Like I think those are like some of my favorite tag teams. So like we kind of had that when we were tagging together for a little bit.
Gotcha. Yeah. You know, I've been a fan of the business, you know, varying levels of fandom over the years, since I was about 11, and I'm going to be 55 next month. So, you know, I grew up in the territory days, and, you know, so I grew up seeing, you know, the Andersons and, you know, the old Minnesota Wrecking Crew, and you know, I've always had a soft spot for good tag team wrestling. And you know, as far as today goes, I'm very much a fan of FTR. I love how back to basics they are, and just no nonsense, nothing flashy, but a very effective tag team. I like them, and I like what Gargano and Ciampa have going with the DIY thing. You know. So, I mean, I feel like tag team wrestling is kind of on the upswing, but, you know, I don't know if it'll ever be what it was.
It's hard. I think it's hard to because you got to think about it. So if you have a tag team feud, they're feuding for the belt. So you got 2 teams,
Right.
It's 4 guys. Ideally, if you have that feud going, you need another like up and coming threat. Right. You have to have another tag team match on the show. And if you look at it from that perspective, you just upped your budget for the show quite a bit because you've added 4 guys. And then on top of that, you ideally probably have some kind of a division in your roster, right? So maybe you have a couple more teams, and it's like you've just added 10 guys to your roster. So like I think it's hard to get those divisions, and it's interesting to think about how they were able to do it in the territory days. But yeah, definitely FTR is one of my favorites to watch for sure. That match they had in Calgary last year, they went an hour with Jay White and
yeah,
that was a mind-blowing match. That was a lot of fun to watch.
Absolutely. So Knowing everything that you know now, if you could give any advice to your younger self, what would it be?
I think the biggest thing with wrestling, it's a story that Lance told me. So Lance started out, and he started out with Chris Jericho. They went to the Hart Brothers Academy, and he brings up this conversation that he had. He remembers it pretty well, and he was like, "Do you think it's how good you are, or do you think it's who you know?" And Lance, you remember they were having this conversation. Lance says to Jericho, he says, "Well, I don't know anybody, so if I make it, it's because of how good I am." But then he goes on, he reflects back on his career, and he's like, realistically, it's both, right? So I think, like, if I was talking to my younger self, or if I was talking to someone wanting to get into the business, you need to get good as quickly as possible, and then you need to go out and meet people, because the more people you know, the more opportunities you're going to get, because the people that can give you opportunities aren't going to knock on your door and come find you. You need to go and find them. And on top of that, when you find them, you need to be able to impress them. So I think it's really, realistically for me, things really started taking off for me, and I started getting cool opportunities when I started going places rather than staying in one place, which was local to me. So I think it's like, if I was giving advice, I'd say start going places sooner.
Yeah.
Right.
Wise words.
Yeah. Thank you.
So if you could only be one, would you rather be great in the ring or great on the mic?
If I could only be one,
yeah,
I would be great on the mic, because the mic is what sells tickets.
Yeah.
And my mic skills are okay. I used to be really bad, but I've worked on it, and I keep working on it. But realistically, like, even there's scores of guys that came up that could talk on the mic, but really weren't good in the ring, but they were on TV because they could talk on the mic. And I think that's another thing I would say to younger wrestlers is learn how to talk on the mic, because if you can talk on the mic, you can sell tickets.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you have a favorite move, a move you just really enjoy doing? And on the flip side, is there a move that you won't, or at least would rather not do in terms of giving and or receiving?
That's a good question. I think my favorite move would probably be my cross arm breaker. So I'll have the guy on his feet, and I'll bend him over, and I'll hook his shoulder, and then I can roll him down into an arm bar there. And I just like it because it's like you can kind of hit it from anywhere, and then you get the person in a pretty much precarious position to where you can break their arm. And a lot of times they tap out when I do it, so that's good. And then in terms of a move that I don't necessarily like doing, but it works, would be the triangle choke. Which, like, you're a jiu-jitsu guy, so you should know this.
Yeah.
If you catch someone in that, it's lights out.
Yeah.
So doing it, it's like I feel bad for the guy, but you're trying to win, right? So it's like, okay, tap out, or I'm going to put you to sleep.
Yeah. Absolutely. So something else that we've done in all of these, and it's just been kind of fun, is we've let the current guest pose a question for the next guest. So my previous guest was a wrestler out of Colorado named Damian Malice, and I had him on late last week. And the question that he posed is, what is your biggest pet peeve in the ring?
Ooh. I honestly, it's like, what comes to mind is like I compete in jiu-jitsu. I learn how to wrestle. I do all these things so that when I get in the ring and I start doing stuff, the audience legitimately believes that I'm trying to kill this guy. I think a pet peeve would be when I'm have an opponent or have someone else in the ring that I have to take seriously and they don't take it seriously. And I've had a couple flare-ups in the past where like I, put a little bit of a stretching in the guy and like they didn't like it. And it's like, okay, well, you signed up for a fight. Like, let's fight.
Yeah.
Right. So like I'd say just like it's kind of, I probably have to deal with it more often than not because of I'm on the independents and I'm active in that. It's just kind of, it is what it is. But definitely I'd probably say it's like when you're dealing with people that don't understand the business and don't understand what's happening, where it's like we are in a professional fight and I am fighting.
Right.
You. So don't turn your back on me unless you want me to kick you in the head.
Yeah, absolutely. So, knowing that this is a series, do you have a question that you would like to pose to the next guest? And I can go ahead and tell you my next guest is going to be this coming Thursday. I've got an indie wrestler actually from here in Georgia. He wears a mask and kind of has this I guess his ring name is Charlie Kills, but he goes by the horror icon. So he's got sort of a horror vibe going.
Okay.
But anyway, do you have a question you would like to pose to the next guest?
Okay, so I'm from Canada, so nothing against this guy. I've never heard of him. But my question is, I want to learn more about his character. So I would say something along the lines of, what is your character and why do you wear a mask? Is that a good question?
Yeah.
I think that's good. Yeah. And because I want to know. Like,
absolutely.
So like if this guy's coming out in a show, I want to know, I want to understand what he's selling me.
Very cool. Very cool. So, we're getting toward the end of things now, but I wanted to give you plenty of time because I know you've got the Canadian National Exhibit coming up, and I want you to hype the heck out of that. So let's hear all about it.
Okay, so you can find all the information on Classic Championship Wrestling. We're doing the Canadian National Exhibition, which if a lot of your audience is American. It's the biggest fair in Canada. And it's going to be pretty close to downtown Toronto. And it's this big, huge fair. There's a Ferris wheel. There's all these vendors and there's activities and things like that. And this year, well, we went last year. We did. There's going to be live professional wrestling. We did 2 weekends last year. And they liked it so much last year. We're going back this year and we're doing 18 straight days. And it's 18 straight days for 3 shows a day. I think it's 2:30, 4:30, and 6:30. But you can find the information on the website. But we're gonna be there every day. I've got a whole bunch of people asking me about going, and they're like, "What day should we come? What day should we come?" We're there every day, so just come, right? Unless it's raining, and we're not gonna wrestle in the rain, not like Bobby Fulton. But it's I love Bobby. No, don't do anything wrong. But we're going to be there every day. And we've got some big names coming in. We got Jimmy Hart. We got Jerry Lawler. I think Jerry Lawler hasn't been to Toronto for like 10 years, maybe even. Like so that's really, really cool. Tio Santana's coming.
Nice.
We got Sam Adonis is going to be wrestling. If you know who that is, he's really big in Mexico. If you watch Mexican wrestling, he's out of Pittsburgh. Corey Graves' brother. So he's coming. I'm really excited about that because I'm hoping I get to wrestle him because I think I can learn a lot from him. And we're going to be there every day. It's a cool fair. You can bring your kids, bring your whatever, hang out, have fun at the fair, and then watch wrestling, and then go back to the fair, and then come back later and watch more wrestling. So we're really, really excited. Doing this many shows in this short of a time is something I have never tried before, but we're really excited because it seems like a really cool challenge. And last year it went really well, and we're making it bigger this year. So the Canadian National Exhibition, it's Classic Championship Wrestling.
Awesome. Well, I know you're going to be exhausted when it's over. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. So don't contact me for media when it's over. Before I've got lots of piss and vinegar right now. So we're really excited. We were there today, setting up the ring, and we're going to be like right in the heart of the entire fair. So we're going to have like
that's cool.
thousands of people watching the show. So it's really
awesome.
cool. We're really excited.
So, beyond C&E, do you have anything else coming up that you'd like to give any kind of hype to?
Not immediately. We have so Classic Championship Wrestling does a whole bunch of has a big schedule, and we got the C&E, but we got a bunch of shows in September. September is usually our busiest month, which will come right after the C&E. So I don't know how that's going to work, but we're going to do it. So we got a bunch of shows all over the place. You want to check your schedule, go to Classic Championship Wrestling. And other than that, I don't have anything specific to hype. I would say, I think it's next week, the Cauliflower Alley Club in Las Vegas. I won't be there this year because we're going to be at the C&E, so we're going to be wrestling. But I've gone the last few years, and it's a really cool cause. It's a big fundraiser. You have a dinner, and they honor some legends in the business, which I think is important. I think the current generation should pay homage to the previous generation more, and say thanks that we're in this position to where we can be in the professional wrestling business, but be in a thriving professional wrestling business. And basically, they're a philanthropic organization where they give money to wrestlers or people that were in the business that, come on some kind of hard times or need some kind of surgery and don't have the money. So they do a lot of great things, and they help a lot of people, and they're helping wrestlers. So I think it's a really good cause. So check out the Cauliflower Alley Club for sure.
Gotcha. Yeah, I remember. I want to say it was either last year or the year before that. I remember. I believe Cauliflower Alley was helping Kamala.
Yes.
Because I know that I believe he has since passed away, but I know he was having some pretty significant health issues going on.
He might have got his foot amputated, I think. But yeah, no, I think they were there for him. They've been there for a number of people that I know of.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time. This has really been great. I've gotten a lot out of picking your brain. So
good.
So, and for those of you that have been watching this live, thank you. For those of you that'll be seeing this on replays and such, thank you for that. If you like what we've got going here, definitely continue to spread the word. This is really starting to take on a life of its own, and I'm just excited to see. I just feel like I'm along for the ride at this point. I'm just interested to see where this is all going. But I will be back actually tomorrow night. I've got a music-related live stream that I'm doing. I've got a progressive metal band from Peru called Candemius that I'm going to be having a live stream chat with. And then on Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, I've got Charlie Kills from right here in Georgia.
Right.
So anyway, everybody have a wonderful rest of your night, and I'll see you tomorrow night and or Thursday night. And
this is the Throwdown with Matt. And
yes,
if you want to get thrown down by Mr. Marvelous, you go to Mr. Marvelous Insta or Facebook, James Runyan, and you get in touch with me, and I will throw down anyone for money.
So you're a hired gun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm an independent contractor. We talked about this.